Let's get to Manchester City's bid for the treble, arguably the biggest obstacle in the way of that goal. They go to 14-time European champions Real Madrid in the first leg of their Champions League semi-final tonight. Our reporter Paul Gilmore is out in Madrid for us. Very good afternoon to you, Paul.
Yes, good afternoon, Rob. We're outside the Bernabeu. Many parts of this stadium still very much under development, actually, as Manchester City arrive in the Spanish capital ahead of this tough task. I'm delighted to say we're joined by former Manchester City defender Nedum Onuoha. And Nedum, I heard Rob talking about it there, and potentially 8 games away from the treble. Does this feel like the toughest obstacle along the way against a team as decorated as Real Madrid are in this competition?
You would say so. I think when you look at the record that Real Madrid have had across all their years, like it's the 14 trophies that they've had, and the fact that when they arrive in these games, there's a level of expectation that, you know, they'll make it to the final, they'll go through and win it, because that's how they're judged. Yes, it will be tough. You know, as Man City seek their very first one, it has proven very, very difficult for them, as we've seen across the years. But I think for them, the fact that the second leg is at home is the thing that makes some people give them a little bit more hope, more of a chance of doing it. But you've got to start well. I think if you come to this place and you underperform, before you know it, that second leg might essentially be meaningless. But I think they have the memories of last year, the disappointment that they had in those last few minutes of the game. So I'm sure they'll try and deal with that today, but it's going to be a very, very tough task.
Yeah, on last year, will the players have bottled that feeling up? Can they use that in any way, or does this almost feel like a completely different season, completely different set of circumstances?
The season is different, but I think, you know, they don't get the chance to play here all the time. So when you do arrive, you will have those memories of it, especially given the fact that so many players from Madrid are the same as they were last year. Obviously, some people have changed, and City have brought in 1 or 2 players as well, one of them very significant up front. So yeah, it's going to be very, very tough to say that last season doesn't matter. But the fact is, it is a different sort of game, and City playing in a slightly different way at this point in time. So as a consequence, whatever they try and put forward out there, they'll think they'll know what the remedy is to try and beat Real Madrid, who this season, you know, they haven't been perfect. But the fact is, it's Real Madrid in the Champions League, so as a consequence, it's always tough.
Yeah, we just heard from Ramon Calderon earlier today as well. He said it's not success at this club, it's an obligation to win the Champions League. And Carlo Ancelotti said yesterday, referring to Manchester City, that they seem unstoppable. They're a more complete team than last year. Do you think that's simply because of Erling Haaland, or have they done other things well as a team as well?
I think it's a good starting point, finding someone that's scored 51 goals so far, yeah. Yeah, they are slightly different, and I think the fact that Haaland's in there sort of changed the way that some other players can play as well. They can find more space because there's such a big focal point up top, but Ancelotti's seen them play, a lot of people have seen them play, and they know what their strengths are, but then they also know what the weaknesses are. I think for Real Madrid themselves, they have that same sort of balance. Some of the forward line can be incredible. You know, the midfield's great as well, and defensively they're very aggressive. So that's what makes for like a fantastic game of football, and it's what you want to see in the semi-final of the Champions League.
So where are the key battles tonight, individually, collectively? What do you feel, and how do you think that game will unfold?
I think the midfield battle could be quite important, because I think if Madrid end up sort of pulling the strings in there with the likes of Modric, then before you know it, there'll be more dangerous balls being played into the likes of Vinicius. And even though Kyle Walker is a great defender, the fact is, as a defender, you're always trying to limit the opportunity for someone. You can never guarantee you'll stop someone. And Vinicius Jr., I think as we saw when he played against Liverpool at Anfield, he can just create something out of nothing and change the tide completely. So I would say, you know, that midfield battle is key. But then for City, they've got someone up front who scored a ton of goals. If you can have like a key say in this game, then I think it affects the way that Real Madrid play, because they will be more sort of on the back foot, because Haaland can be such a threat, because he wants to get into the space in behind and make a difference that way. But if he has a quiet game and City can't really get the ball to him and don't create a ton of opportunities, I think that plays into Real Madrid's hands. So I think overall, because it's just so high quality, you could look at positions everywhere, you know. So as a consequence, as I say, it's tough to pinpoint people exactly, but I think there are going to be lots of little battles all around the field which are well worth watching.
I guess with Real Madrid, defensively, some of their defensive performances have been called into question by Ancelotti recently, having kept a clean sheet in 4 or 5 games, and I think he said they need to be better. Also without Eder Militao ahead of tonight. Could that be a significant little detail in this?
Yeah, I think Militao missing is a big blow for them. I think we've seen him over the last couple of seasons do particularly well, and it's not always been, you know, the highs, but when they've had significant games, himself, Rudiger, they've stepped up over this last season as well. So I think it is a blow for them, but it's not the end of the world. They've got the likes of Nacho and others who could potentially come in. I think Alaba could play centre-back as well. And these aren't brand new players who haven't felt what it's like to be successful. These are prior Champions League winners. These are people who play internationally and do very, very well overall. So I think it is a blow for them, but it's not something that drastically changes the way that they play. And I'm looking forward, to be fair, we talked about battles, to see that Rudiger and Haaland battle. You know, Rudiger's never someone to take a back foot, and I think Haaland's exactly the same. So, yeah, I think defensively they have conceded, but so have Man City. I think so does every team. You can never guarantee a clean sheet, and especially when you see the talent that's up front today for both sides. You know, I'd be very surprised if there weren't loads of goals in this.
And I want to talk about a couple of Manchester City players in particular. Obviously, he made a lot of changes for the Leeds game, talking about players being tired, but you look at two in particular who you would expect to come back in, John Stones and Jack Grealish. No, Grealish first. All of a sudden he feels like this has been his season, this could be his stage tonight. Are you expecting him to step up to that challenge tonight? And also John Stones and his relatively new role in the team, how do you think that could play out, or where do you expect him to see him tonight?
I think Jack is very comfortable in the team at this moment in time. I think he knows that he's playing some of the best football of his career around some of the best players, you know, he's like he could ever play with in his career as well. So he understands his value, and I think most significantly, he plays basically every single week. Whereas other people get rotated in certain slots, I think Guardiola has a real trust in him in terms of how he attacks, how he defends. And as a consequence, he's made like a huge impact for the side across this time where they've put themselves in contention to, you know, to win a league, potentially, you know, win a Champions League as well. So I think him playing here, it's exciting for him because whenever you hear him speak, you know how much he loves football. He's very much just like you, I, and everyone else who just plays the game of football once. He just loves to be out there on the field doing it with his teammates. So I think he will be key for City today because if he plays well, you know, City tend to play well. That has been the case over the last couple of months. And then for John Stones, interestingly, sometimes he goes into midfield and he does exceptionally well next to Rodri. But then you look at the game against Arsenal and he barely stepped in there, and City were just as dominant. So I think it's about tactically knowing that you can do that if you need to. And with the players as experienced as he is and the quality he has, you know, this is a full England international, he's done it for so many years. It's nice to see that they have that variation, and not every team is able to sort of react to that and as a consequence slow it down.
And I guess a question on the treble dream and the treble bid. Arsenal winning at Newcastle, I think a lot of people were expecting Newcastle, given the momentum, to win that. What has that done for maybe Pep Guardiola's thinking with a game against a revitalised Everton at Goodison Park, sandwiched in between these two games? I guess winning a treble is not easy, but how does that impact on his thoughts, do you think, around these games, and every game so important at the moment?
I think, to be honest, given how successful he's been in the past, I think he would have had a plan in place which would revolve around Arsenal winning all their games anyway. I think if there is rotation, then it's for a bigger reason other than, say, certain results which are out of his control. I think he will control whatever he can. And for that game there, you know, myself and lots of others, we fancied Arsenal to win. Like, for as good as Newcastle have been, Arsenal could finish the season on 90 points. Like, and some people still think they've had a mediocre season. Yeah. It kind of blows my mind to that sort of standpoint. And I think if City expect Arsenal to get to that, well, to do that, you have to get 91 points or above. And they're on track to do that currently. So as a consequence, yeah, seeing them win away somewhere where some people think they might lose, it's irrelevant because at the end of the day, they're going to put points on the board because that's what they've consistently done. So I think for Guardiola, I don't think it changes his ideas of rotation or plans. But then also, in the last 4 weeks of the season, is rotation as big a deal at this point when every game is huge? And essentially, it's a cliche, every game is a cup final. Well, in some ways, it is, because if you lose one, before you know it, one of your dreams might go up in the air.
Look, Nedum, thank you so much for your time and insights into the team and the match tonight. We're looking forward to this one. Real Madrid against Manchester City in the semi-final of the Champions League leg of this treble dream for Pep Guardiola and Manchester City. Potentially 8 games away from it, but the most decorated club in this competition, 14 times champions Real Madrid, stand in their way.
Exciting times. Both of you, thank you very much.